moving on to another form of drama, of course. You mentioned a couple days ago me talking about Ana de Armas in No Time to Die, her character Paloma, how the innocence was shown through it, and how I'm not surprised beyond just her physical features, how playing those moments influenced her being cast in as Marilyn Monroe Blonde. Of course, Blonde is directed by Andrew Dominic, and it's been kind of controversial during this festival season. People are still praising the movie. Some are also disappointed in it because of of course, the depictions of abortion and predominantly nudity. This movie is predominantly done underneath a male glaze of Marilyn Monroe, which was the summation of her career. It's kind of awkward if you're doing a intimate picture about a person who had to deal with the issue of being presented under the male glaze, not just in her movies, but also behind the scenes with the producers, which put her in those predicaments. It's kind of weird why you continue to do that in a biopic that's about her. But Ana de Armas, she spoke about the film's use of nudity and its portrayal of Marilyn Monroe in those scenes. She said she's not bothered by other people's interpretation of it. She said it was harder for people to watch those scenes than for her to make because she understood what she was doing and she felt protected and safe. She said she didn't feel exploited because she was controlled and made that decision, and she knew in the movie what she was doing. And she said she trusted her director, and she felt she was in a safe environment, and that she had tons of conversations between him and other people behind the scenes, which I think is kind of interesting. She got the benefit Marilyn Monroe never got, I guess. So I guess that's why she was able to feel safe in those nude scenes, whereas Marilyn Monroe didn't really have that control in agency. It's kind of funny in the movie about the person, the actress has control agency, but the actual person didn't have. It's life is weird sometimes, but yeah. So so I don't know if anybody wants to see Blonde who's listening to the podcast or watching if we put this portion on YouTube. But yeah, those were Anna's feelings about the movie and in its whole. So hey.
This is such a confusing thing for me every single time. I mean, I feel like I've made my point about how I feel about nudity in movies already, but it's so funny because at the end of this article, I think someone had mentioned people put these clips, like they clip these things and they put them online without context. Mm-hmm. And she was like, yeah, I know, that really sucks. I hate it. It's disgusting. All this other type of stuff about like how, we don't have any control over it and blah, blah, blah. And it's just so amazing to me that that is what they're thinking about in terms of like, you wanted to do this, like you signed up for this, knowing that we live in the age of the internet. Mm-hmm. People can clip any of these scenes. It's on Netflix. So we don't even have to go to the theater to go like scam and find it and try to like grab a screening. Like it literally is on your computer and you can do it right from there or put that straight on to YouTube. So it's like, it's so amazing to me that the idea of like, well, I'm going to do this because I feel comfortable and I feel like this is the right artistic choice for me. And then simultaneously be like, yeah, but I hate that people are going to see it out of context. It's like, I mean, you're right. You don't have any control over that portion of it. So is that not anything that goes through your mind before you accept the role, or even to just tailor it to where you don't have that many nude scenes or any? The idea that you need it doesn't make any sense to me. Like I just feel like you don't need it at all. I was watching this interview with Keira Knightley, and she was talking about a movie she did with David Cronenberg and how there were a lot of sex nudity scenes in it. And she was like, I'm not going to do any of that. And if that means I don't get the movie, then that's fine. And he was like, listen, we'll take it out. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Right. So I just feel like everyone needs to have that mindset. It's just like, you don't need it in the movie because that is what's going to happen. People are going to view it out of context. They're not going to have any respect for the process that you put on it while you were making it. They're going to watch it and do whatever they want to do to it. And there's nothing you can do about that. So are people coming to the film to actually see this in-depth look at Marilyn, or are they just going there to see you naked? Like, who knows?
Yeah.
And I just feel like, I mean, Anna has done it before. I think in Blade Runner, she did nude scenes in that. So I'm sure she's fine with it. It's not really about how she feels about it, I guess, necessarily. Because like, if she didn't feel like she wanted to do it, she wouldn't have done this like at all. So, but I just think it's funny that like, they're like, well, I want to do this because it's integral to the film. But I also hate the fact that other people are going to just watch it out of context. And it's like, that's the deal. Like, that's what happens.
I can kind of see her point of view, being in the fact it's the same way everybody whatever project you do, whether you're an artist, you're a filmmaker, whatever, when a piece of it leaks online and people don't get the whole context of it, like, understandably, all the nude scenes of this movie are gonna leak because people are perverted and perverse people, particularly men, and just want to see Anna Armas naked. That's the easiest way. I have a Netflix subscription. I can see Anna like it's gonna happen. But I do understand from an artistic viewpoint, the context, I guess, of those nude scenes is missing. And that's also another top issue. Like, I understand, like, I think as I've gone older and I've progressed and we're watching more movies, my view of nudity in films, like, I was always like, oh, it's in there, it's whatever. But now I'm like, does it help service the picture? Does it serve a purpose? Like, in Lola, the nudity in Lola makes sense because it's predominantly, the most of the nudity we get in Lola is
Lola.
Lola.
Did I watch
yeah, we watched Lola. Remember the Twitter movie, the Twitter story that became a movie?
Oh, Zola?
Yeah, Zola. Sorry, I don't know why I said Lola, but Zola.
Like,
sorry, sorry. But you get my point. The nudity in that movie was meant to showcase the awkwardness and the weirdness of the situation she was in, and also because penises are weird. Let's just be honest, penises are weird. So in that movie, the nudity, had an artistic reason to it. And then you have Detain that we saw on the other side, where she's having sex with cars. It doesn't help the story thematically. Like, I think that's where my thing with nudity is. If it helps thematically with the movie, yes. If it doesn't need to be there, if it's not to the service of the story, remove it. So. And I haven't seen Blonde yet, so I can't say it's to the service of the movie or it isn't. So. Yeah.
I just feel like as a director, it's your job to learn to know how to do, or how to communicate rather, certain things in various ways.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the thing with me is like, it always, because it's like a common practice, right? It always feels like that's just the first step. Yeah. Like, this scene, you're going to be naked because the audience needs to know that you're vulnerable. Like, okay, sure, but you're telling me you can't communicate that in any other way? Like, there's no other way you can show that this character is vulnerable other than me being naked in the shower? You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's my issue with it. My issue with it is always presented like, this is important for the story. And my thing is like, well, is it really? Or are you just not thinking of other ways to do this because you're used to doing it in this certain way? Like, this is what producers feel like will work, screenwriters, audiences. So I'm just going to do it in the way that I've always done it, or how it's always been done.
Yeah.
Not realizing that, back in the day when there were censors or stuff, like when there's a lot of censors over movies, like couples couldn't even sleep in the same bed, there were still great films being made. So you can't, that's what I'm saying. It's like, you can't tell me that you need it for the story. Like, you just can't. Like, if you watch Rear Window or whatever, one of those movies where it's very suggestive, you can still get the desired effect because the filmmaker knew what they were doing. Like, you didn't need to see the person naked. And that's kind of where I stand on it. Because it's just like, you can't tell me that you need it because I've seen other movies where they've done it and they've done it well without all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So again, that's my stance. I don't know how many more times I have a stance, but like, whenever it comes up, I'll talk about it because I just feel like that's something that people aren't acknowledging all the time. And then I feel like you made another point about like, oh yeah, so about Marilyn herself, a person who was already exploited in life, like to the degree. To make this film first of all, to have a man direct this, I really wish a woman had directed this movie. I feel like it would be completely different. And I'm not saying female filmmakers don't do stuff with nudity. I mean, we just saw Titan, like, so that's not that's not true. I'm just saying, like, the viewpoint, the gaze of it,
the
would
understanding,
be very different. Right, it would be very different, and there probably wouldn't be that much of that stuff in there, because for it to be rated NC-17, whatever, it must be like a large portion. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with the rating systems or whatever, but I think that's what that means. So I just feel like, hasn't she already like been exposed so much over the lifetime, like over her lifespan, and to just bring it back and do it again, and it just, I don't know, it feels like, not a slight, because again, haven't seen the movie, don't know what they're going to do with it, but it just seems like all that stuff just seems super unnecessary, especially with a person like her, where she was so, like, the fact that she was actually talented as an actor is something that we're just now coming to grips with. Like, for the majority of her life, people did not see her like that. They just saw her as a sex symbol. And so it just feels like they're perpetrating that kind of idea through these nudity scenes. Like, it just seems excessive in a way that it shouldn't, especially when it comes to her. But again, haven't seen the movie, so don't really know, but I'm just, from what I'm gathering, it doesn't seem great.
The male glaze is a really...
Say glaze one more time.
Glaze or gaze. Sorry, I don't know why I said glaze. I'm hungry. It's late. Having
the male glaze.
Look, that's new. So you made it sound worse than it actually did. See, you made it. See, now my head went totally different. That's all. You're horrible. But no, the male view. Okay, when it comes to women in Hollywood is I don't think we've ever actually, as like an industry, really sat and had a long thought out conversation, because of course Marilyn Monroe has been trapped forever as a sex symbol, and at the other end of the spectrum we have Audrey Hepburn is trapped in youth forever, eternally. You know, even to the point where a couple years ago they had a ice cream commercial, and it's the young version of her when she had a long life. Like, they Hollywood has a tendency to trap and commodify a lot of these women at certain points, or just stagnate them and keep them trapped there. So it's a deep issue that I think the industry, you know, it's a long time the industry has a chance to address. Did you like that clip? Well, you can listen to the entire podcast, because the 16mm Film Crew podcast is available on all major podcast platforms.